My name's Roy Acree. I'm the fire chief here in the city of Smyrna. To my left is Frank Martin, the director of Public Works. To his left is Barry Moore, the director of the Smyrna Public Library. Also present is Ms. Caitlin Crow from Community Development. She'll be reading the background for all the variance requests that we have. First item on the agenda is item 2A, which is a privileged license agent change request, LIC 2021-15, beer, wine, and liquor retail pouring, 2999 Cumberland Boulevard, Carrabba's Italian Grill, LLC, DBA Carrabba's Italian Grill, with Kimberly DiGiuliano as agent. Is Kimberly present? Good morning. Could you please step forward to the podium?
Good morning.
Good morning. If you could, please state your name for the record.
Absolutely. I'm Kimberly Lane DiGiuliano.
DiGiuliano.
You did good. I've heard way
I
worse.
did. I was close. my last name's Acree, so nobody ever gets that right. So. Well, good morning. So you are scheduled to be, or requesting to be the privilege agent for this location for
Yes,
Carrabba's.
sir.
So what is your role with the organization?
My title is joint venture partner, which is essentially the regional manager. So I have the locations in the Atlanta market. I also have Chattanooga, Tennessee, and some Alabama stores, but I live in Woodstock. I live here.
Okay. So are you the registered agent for any other Carrabba's
No, sir.
locations? So this would be the only one?
Yes, sir.
Have you held this type of privilege license before?
I have not.
Okay. So how often would you say that you would be at this particular location?
At least twice a month, but usually it's more than that. So since I live close by, this is one of my home locations, so I'm here quite often.
Okay. So could you describe for this board whether it's company policy or internal practices that you guys have, the types of point of sale, what's required when somebody comes to Carrabba's and orders alcohol, also that you guys can ensure the responsible sale of alcohol? What practices or policies do you have in place?
Absolutely. So we actually have a couple of things that start with our hiring and training. So we're BBI, we are in Outback Steakhouse, and so we have a company-wide program that anytime we hire someone, they have to go through our training process and also whatever state and local ordinance processes there are. So all of our employees have to go through a 3-hour training online program to understand all of the laws. And then the managers actually have to go through a much more intense program. It's about a 9-hour program through their manager training. Both of those programs are done every single year. And then all of the servers have to have their alcohol cards and make sure that they're completely comfortable and understand how to go through and see if somebody's intoxicated and when to involve a manager. Our company policy is also that at the third drink, we have to have a manager visit the table and make sure that we have a conversation with the guest and verify that they're okay before we serve that cocktail.
Any questions for the applicant? Okay. So just for the record, we do have the required the Training Institute for Responsible Vendors certification on file. Also for the record, the Smyrna Police Department did do the required background investigation for this applicant and found nothing in that investigation that would preclude the issuance of this license. If there's no further questions or comments, I'll call for a vote. I'm sorry.
Second.
We have a proper motion, we have a motion to approve with a proper second. If there's no further, I'll call for the vote. Got it right this time. That motion passes unanimously. Good luck. Congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Y'all have a wonderful day.
You too. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is item 2B, public hearing variance request V22-001, first one in 22. Reduce the rear setback from 30 to 28 feet for lot 623, 2310 Garden Park Drive, with Judy Ray as the applicant. Ms. Crow, the background, please.
All right. Good morning. Caitlin Crow, Planner 1 Community Development. So this variance is V22-001 to reduce that rear setback from 30 feet to 28 feet. So the subject parcel is a 0.39 acre lot located right between Garden Park Drive and Cooper Lake Drive within the Gates at Vining subdivision. So the applicant is proposing to add a 224 square foot addition on the rear of the existing home. The sunroom addition will have floor to ceiling windows on all sides with a shingle roof and will follow the line of the existing home there in the back. Due to the length of the addition to accommodate the existing patio there to give a little bit more space, the sunroom will encroach into that rear setback by 2 feet. Since there's already outdoor access and that large patio in the back, the most logical area to build the sunroom addition is in the same location. As the floor plan of the home lays now, the strict application of the ordinance would also require significant renovations to the interior of the home to accommodate any type of outdoor access for this addition. So the variance proposed is the minimum variance needed, as the existing floor plan does minimize the alternative locations in which to construct the addition. The lot also severely slopes up from the roadway in the front, and there is a big privacy wall in the rear of the property, so it would be very difficult to see from general passerby. Moreover, a similar variance was approved right next door at 2308 Garden Park Drive back in 1999. So no negative precedent would be set by this. Community Development has not received any calls in opposition to this specific request. It has been properly posted. So after reviewing the variance application, staff does support the request and recommends approval to reduce the rear setback from 30 feet to 28 feet with the following standard condition. Approval of the requested variance shall be conditioned upon the development of the property in substantial compliance with the site plan and elevations submitted with the variance application. And I can answer any questions.
Any questions for staff?
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Crow. Ms. Ray, is the applicant present? Hey, good morning. If you could just come forward and state your name for the record.
My name is Judy Cheney Ray.
Good morning.
Good
So
morning.
you just heard Ms. Crow kind of give a big picture description of the variance request and the project that spawns that. Do you have any additional information to add to what Ms. Crow
No,
said?
I don't. I thank you, Miss Crow, but no, I don't.
Okay. You also heard her read into record the one condition which she referenced as a standard condition, which just basically means that it has to be constructed in the way that you request for it to be done in the application.
I
Are you
understand.
familiar with that and agree with that?
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
This is a public hearing. If there's anybody here that'd like to speak either for or against item 2B, I would ask that you'd step forward at this time. Seeing no one, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve variance request V22-001, reduce the rear setback from 30 feet to 28 feet, lot 623, 2310 Garden Park Drive, Judy Ray applicant.
Second.
We have a motion to approve 2B with a proper second. If there's no further, I'll call for the vote. That motion passes unanimously. Good luck. Next item on the agenda is item 2C, public hearing variance request V22-002 to allow a 6-foot wooden privacy fence in front yard on a corner lot, lot 453, 1047 Pinehurst Drive. Lauren Bryant is the applicant. Ms. Crow, the background, please.
All right, Caitlin Crow, Planner 1 Community Development again. So this variance is V22-002 to allow that 6-foot wooden privacy fence in the front yard on a corner lot. So the subject parcel is a 0.32 acre lot located right on the northwestern corner of the intersection of Pinehurst Drive and Macaulay Road. So the subject property previously actually had a 4-foot chain link fence that surrounded the perimeter of the property. And then in December 2021, The applicant took down that chain link fence and erected a new 6-foot wooden privacy fence to surround that property along Macaulay Drive. It is very close to the city right-of-way. However, we'll have a stipulation to address that as well. Strict application of the ordinance would require a fence greater than 4 feet in height to be actually set back 23.3 feet from the property line there on Macaulay Road. So thus, the applicant is requesting this variance to be able to maintain that fence in the same location and provide safety and security from that busy road and intersection. The city engineer did go out on site and determine that there is in fact a site distance issue as the fence currently stands. So per the Georgia Department of Transportation driveway and encroachment manual, a 2-lane road with a nominal speed of 30 miles per hour requires an unobstructed site distance of 335 feet. So from his site visit, he did determine that there's not only the fence, but a tree on the property that does encumber the line of sight. However, after speaking with the applicant, she has fully agreed to modify the fence to provide that necessary site distance. So a stipulation has also been added for that approval. Community Development believes that this variance is the minimum variance needed to keep the 6-foot fence, and that sometimes a 4-foot fence just doesn't provide the necessary security on a corner lot. It has been properly posted, and after the reviewing this application, staff does support this request as well, and recommends approval to allow the 6-foot wooden fence in the front yard to stay with the following 3 conditions. The first is our standard condition. Approval of the requested variance shall be conditioned upon the development of the property in substantial compliance with the site plan submitted with the variance application. Number 2, if any part of the fence falls within the city's right-of-way and the city must work within the area, the fence may be required to be moved at the owner's expense. And number 3, the fence shall be amended to meet site distance requirements per the city engineer within 6 months from the time of variance approval. And I can answer any questions.
Any questions for staff?
All right, thank you.
So just
Oh,
real
sure.
quick, if this were to be approved today, the third stipulation, fence shall be amended to meet site distance per city engineer. So I guess what that would mean, should this be approved, is that the city engineer just needs to come back out and say, because it looks like to me, just looking at the site plan, the amendment would be, you know, on just kind of modifying a corner of the existing wooden fence.
Correct.
So I guess my question is, how's that going to work? So the city engineer, the applicant just coordinates with the city engineer, they meet together and they say, yeah, if you just cut this corner off to a 45-degree angle, hypothetically, then that would be sufficient?
Correct. So the city engineer, Eric Randall, will need to go out after the fact. I have let Ms. Bright know that Eric has said that he's more than willing to go beforehand to kind of say exactly where the line is.
Yeah.
That'll be up to them to coordinate if they would like to do that. But yeah, she's aware that Eric will need to go back out there to verify that the site distance has been met at that time. And she can give you timelines of what she's thinking as well.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, thanks.
Lauren Bryant. Good morning. You could please state your name for the record.
Lauren Bryant.
So you just heard Ms. Crow read into record a summation, you know, of what's going on that spawned this variance request. Do you have any additional information to add to what she said?
Sure, I could add a little color to meeting with the city planner, or not the city planner, the engineer.
Engineer, right.
Yes, I called Mr. Randall last week, and he came out to my home and actually kind of just further described the situation. He actually walked the fence line with me, and we went in the interior, and he made a mark on a post that
Okay.
would need to be moved. So that front part that you see there has maybe about 5 posts need to be moved in about a foot. So I also then called the folks who built the fence, and they're tentatively scheduled to come out on Friday of this week to go ahead and pick up those posts and move them in about a foot,
Okay.
so we can get that site
Thank you
distance.
for that. So that's why I was asking Ms. Crow, because, you know, I'm just putting myself in your position. If I've got to modify this area of the fence, how much, you know, and what's sufficient, and what's
Right.
not. So Okay, sounds like you're way ahead of us. You've already done
Yeah.
it. So you know exactly, based off the city engineer's input, exactly how to modify that corner.
Yes, sir. He went and took a pencil and put an X on the fencing, so we should be
Okay.
good there.
You also heard Ms. Crowe read into record the three stipulations. Are you familiar with those and in
Yes.
agreeance with those?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
This is a public hearing. If there's anybody here who'd like to speak either for or against item 2C, I would ask that you step forward at this time. Seeing no one, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve variance request V22-002, allow 6-foot wooden privacy fence in front yard on a corner lot, lot 453 at address 1047 Pinehurst Drive, Lauren Bryant.
Second.
We have a motion to approve 2C with a proper second. If there's no further, I'll call for the vote. That motion passes unanimously. The next two items on the agenda are 2D and 2E, same subject property. We will hear both of these separately, though. The first one is D, variance request V22-003 to increase accessory building size from 25 to 33%, lot 519, 2474 Adams Drive. Ronald Dickinson is the applicant. Ms. Crowe, the background.
All right, Caitlin Crowe, Planner 1 Community Development. So we will be hearing both of these separately, but I'll go ahead and read them together just so that we get the full picture of both variances.
Thank you.
So the first variance is V22-003 to increase the accessory building size from 25% to 33%. And then the second variance is V22-004 to increase the accessory building height from 15 feet to 16 feet. So the subject parcel is a 0.19 acre lot located on the west side of Adams Drive. So in March 2021, the applicant actually annexed the subject property into the city of Smyrna and received several variances to allow for the construction of a new single-family home and detached garage. However, once the detached garage came in for permitting, it was 2 stories and this larger and taller than anticipated by the site plan that had been submitted during the original annexation review. Thus, the applicant did need to apply for the 2 additional variances. And additionally, due to applicant error, the detached garage did not receive proper permitting prior to erection, so this detached structure is actually already built on site. The applicant is proposing to keep a 1,012 square foot detached garage on the rear of the property. The 5-foot side setback that is shown in the site plan was already approved during the annexation and variance process. The detached structure consists of a 2-car garage on the first floor and a bedroom, bathroom, and loft space on the second floor. There is no kitchen space allowed, and it's not allocated, in the structure, so it would not act as a second dwelling unit per our definition. The garage is built of the same materials of the new home and is also painted to match. The new 2-story home is a little over 3,000 square feet, which means that the proposed garage exceeds the allowable accessory structure size by 8%, based off of that primary structure square footage. The applicant has also proposed to increase the structure height from 15 feet to 16 feet to match the roof line of the primary building. Due to the size and composition of the accessory structure, the increase in the height will allow it to blend in a little bit more seamlessly with the existing building and decrease any visual deterrence. Community Development believes the variances proposed are the minimum variances needed to allow for this structure to stay and should have no negative impacts on adjacent properties. It has been properly posted, and after reviewing the variance application, staff does support both variance requests and recommends approval to 1, increase the accessory building size from 25% to 33%. Number 2, to increase the accessory building height from 15 feet to 16 feet with the following 4 conditions. Number 1 is that standard condition. Approval is conditioned upon substantial compliance with the site plan and elevations submitted with the variance application. Number 2, the addition is to be utilized by family members only. Number 3, the proposed garage shall not be rented or occupied for gain. And number 4, These conditions shall run in perpetuity with the property, and as such are also applicable to any future owner. And I can answer any questions.
Questions for staff? Thank you, Ms. Crowe.
All right, thank you.
Is the applicant present?
Sure, Chief.
Good morning, sir. If you could state your name for the record.
I will, Chief. Let me ask you a question. May I take this mask off?
Yes, sir.
I appreciate
You certainly
that.
can.
My wife says I mumble enough without that being on there, and I just tell her that's just selective hearing.
That probably doesn't go over well.
No, it never did, not even the first time. But first of all, good morning, Chief, Mr. Martin, Ms. Moore. Pleasure to be here this morning. My name is Garvis Sams. I represent Mr. Ron Dickinson concerning this application and concerning there's 3 or 4 other applications that we've done for rezoning, variances, et cetera. The last time he was before you in 21, he was handling that pro se on his own. It seemed pretty straightforward because the properties where this is located in the sub areas, some are in the county, some are in the city. So the county encourages, and y'all try to follow the path of trying to bring any unincorporated islands into the city. So, and coming in at R20 seemed like a reasonable thing to do as opposed to requesting another classification because we didn't need we weren't worried about gaining density, number one, and number two, it just met with the city's goals and their policy. I'm surprised I don't have the unusual extraordinary security that I usually run into when I'm here seeing the mayor and council, but it was a pleasure. I didn't have to empty my pockets for a change. But let me tell you a little bit about this. First, Caitlin did a great job of setting this up, and it is applicants' errors, inadvertent errors. He called them rookie errors, but that's not exactly true. He's been in the business a little longer than that. But in any event, we're here asking really for a forgiveness as opposed to permission, and that's not his style. That's not my style, but that's the circumstances that we're in right now. I've got a handout, if the clerk wouldn't mind accommodating me to give y'all some.
Sure.
To give you some illustrative points and also some photographs of the product now. It is as built, and it looks darn nice, in my opinion. And you're seeing this area of the city going in this direction, as you can see with the aerial photographs that you've got, and then the site plan that's been broken out to show the properties to the south are mostly RDA, and of course our property to the north of those tracks is in fact R20. It's a 0.19 acre tract, almost 2/10 of an acre, and as I said, the RDA properties are to its south, and some of those are Mr. Dickinson's. Typically, what you have, as you've seen with these other applicants, is you like to see a hardship due and owing to a literal interpretation or enforcement of ordinance provisions. We don't have that, but what we do is the second half of that component is Ms. Crowe and I think the rest of the staff believe this is not going to set an adverse precedent, which is a critical component of, at least in my view, of the way variances should be presented and/or upon which they should be based. And it was a design error in the construction, in the design of the garage, and it went from 21 in width and 24 in depth, or vice versa, to 1 foot the other way, and it wasn't a transposition of numbers, and staff had absolutely no participation in an adverse way to this. They put us on notice, and about a month later, nothing had occurred yet in terms of undertaking remedial measures, but the variance had planned to be filed, and we've got a purchaser. This house is being sold for $750,000, Chief. This is the price points that we said that there would be, and of course you can't base anything on price points, and we get that. But honestly, this is not just a focal point of this neighborhood, but a focal point of the city, and emblematic of what you're trying to do, at least in this region. And so we are asking that the accessory structure be allowed to be increased from 25 to 30%, and then we're asking for 12 inches higher on the building itself. In this particular set of circumstances, we're not asking for any additional stipulations, but we abide by the 4 or 5 stipulations that Caitlin has included in her analysis. Staff, as far as I can read with this is sort of a quasi-judicial as opposed to a quasi-legislative thing, but has recommended approval based upon those conditions. I can reread them, but she stated them, and they're right there in your analysis. So with that being said, we do respectfully request, we apologize to the city, we respectfully request that we had to be here this morning, but we don't think it sets an adverse precedent, and we ask that you follow your professional staff's recommendation.
Well, I appreciate that, and just, kind of informally, but for the record, I will state that Mr. Dickinson, and this was confirmed by Community Development, just as you stated, has a good working relationship and reputation with the city of Smyrna, so we appreciate everything that you just said.
Thanks, Chief.
Any questions for the applicant's representative? Okay, thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Sams.
Chief.
This is a public hearing. If there's anybody here that'd like to speak for or against item 2D, I would ask that you step forward at this time, sir. Could please state your name for the record, and so not only your name, but also your address.
Yes, Joel Smith. I'm living currently at 2765 Bell Drive. I'm the person that's under contract with this house currently. I wanted to just get a clarity of what Caitlin had said. Was there a stipulation that it had to only be a family member? I understand not being able to rent it out.
Yes.
Our plans, and I wanted to make sure this is clarified. I'm the pastor at Smyrna Presbyterian Church, and so this was going to be our future home, planning to be our future home. Our intention was we have interns that work at the church. We have currently a Brazilian intern that goes to school full-time. Our plan was for him to live in that space. I know not for rent, but he cannot work because he's on a student visa. This was our way of supporting him as a church for him to be able to pursue his studies. Is there any way that stipulation could be, I don't know, dropped, but changed, amended? How would that process go about? So I guess it's not so much on
I'm going to ask.
the access of.
Yeah, I'm
of
going to
what
ask
this
Ms.
is
Crow.
about, but I'm just asking.
I'm going to ask Mr. Martin to weigh in on this, but I will say, I know that legislatively within the ordinance, it doesn't completely or at least accurately specify what constitutes a family member and what does not. Mr. Martin.
Yeah, the intent is to prohibit short-term rentals and
Right.
renting the space for gain.
Right.
I would be fine if you guys are comfortable amending that so you can add,
Just remove number 2.
remove number 2 and
Because
just
you
keep
would still
it as.
have number 3, which is kind of, as you just stated, the intent, which would still enforce the proposed garage shall not be rented or
Yeah.
occupied for gain. Mr. Sams, did you have anything?
Yeah, I think, and I'm certainly not going to supplant Mr. Martin's interpretation of the code, but I think the primary goal of that is this not be something to rent for gain.
Right.
This is ancillary to the church, and it's, by the way, it's the first time I've met the Right and Reverend today, and I honestly didn't know who the purchaser was. But if you could go with Rusty's interpretation with the caveat that the church is not going to be charging any of its occupants, and will they all be church-related occupants?
Correct.
And we'd be glad to add that as well, Chief.
And we're sort of in a funny position because the city is currently having a policy discussion about short-term rentals.
Right.
So, this is sort of a standard condition we've applied to this, and I think we've worked through this issue for these variances. If they want to use them for short-term rentals, the ones that have these stipulations applied, they'll probably have to come back and amend those stipulations to eliminate them. But I feel comfortable just eliminating the family members sort of thing, because I don't know that that's enforceable on our end, that we can
Exactly.
even verify who's a
what
family member
what
and who's
constitutes
not.
a family
So,
member, and that way, and this is just really getting into more of Roy's opinion. Hypothetically, removing yeah, hypothetically removing the number 2 stipulation that references specifically a family member still leaves the stipulation number 3, which would, kind of like as Rusty said, the overall intent is to really, limit or prohibit the use for rental for gain.
Plus,
Right,
this will
as
be
is.
a member of the church family.
Right,
Right.
exactly.
I mean, as is, that would mean that even if they just had a friend visiting, they wouldn't be able to put the friend in the room. That would,
Well, no, I think
Yeah.
that if we were, well, and again, that back to, what constitutes a family member. Is it an
Right.
immediate family by blood relations? Is it a church family? Is it, but still, leaving the number 3 would prohibit someone, any property owner, from renting this extra space for gain, which is, I think, the goal from the elected body's perspective in this situation.
To the extent that the city would feel comfortable with an affidavit being presented every 6 months to a year, that the circumstances are still the same and it's not being, because I don't know how in the world you guys enforce that in any event, but if that would be a constraint that would be helpful, we could do that too. Thank you, Chief.
So, Ms. Crowe, do you have anything additional for this? So I guess just for the record, we would just state that the 4 conditions as read into record, specifically number 2, which is verbatim, the addition is to be utilized by family members only, would be stricken from the requirement.
And please just make sure, since these are 2 separate items, if you choose to do that, think about if you want to apply it to both variances.
Right, and that would be, so that would change the stipulation count from 4 to 3. So we would strike number 2. And is the board okay with that, striking number 2? Okay. All right, so officially, the condition count is now 3 with the removal of the addition is to be utilized by family members only. Sir, did you have any additional information or questions? Okay, no problem. This is a public hearing. If there's anybody here, any other people here that'd like to speak either for or against item 2D, I'd ask that you step forward at this time. Seeing no one, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve variance request V22-003, increase accessory building size from 25% to 33%, lot 519, 2474 Adams Drive, Ronald Dickinson, applicant, with the stipulation that the second requirement of the property being used only by family members be stricken, and the number of requirements reduced to 3.
Second.
A motion to approve 2D with a proper second. If there's no further, I'll call for the vote. That motion passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda, same subject property, item number 2E, variance request V22-004 to increase accessory building height from 15 to 16 feet, 2474 Adams Drive, same applicant. Ms. Crowe, do you have any additional information?
Not at this time.
Mr. Sams, do you have any additional?
Chief, I purposely tried to cover them both at the same time,
Yes,
so
sir.
nothing further.
Thank you. And the same 3 conditions would apply to E as well. 3 conditions, not 4. This is a public hearing. If there's anybody here who'd like to speak, I'm sorry, did anybody have any additional? Okay. This is a public hearing. If there's anybody that you'd step forward at this time. Seeing no one, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve variance request V22-004, increase accessory building height from 15 feet to 16 feet, lot 519 at 2474 Adams Drive, Ronald Dickerson.
Second?
I have a motion to approve 2E with a proper second. If there's no further, I'll call for the vote. That motion passes unanimously. Congratulations and on the new home, sir. Is the approval of the
Make a motion. Approval of December 8, 2021 License and Variance Board meeting minutes.
Second.
Call for the vote. And that motion passes unanimously. We